Hi, I'm Jeremy and welcome to the CDNify podcast. Today I'm joined by Paul Clifford. For those of you that don't know, Paul is a British serial web entrepreneur having successfully worked with large software companies to build applications for contract management, HR and recruitment businesses. Having sold to enterprise clients across 45 countries, he decided to start Disruptware, a community for software entrepreneurs that are starting out or scaling up. Today we're going to be talking about increasing website traffic, content marketing, and finding out about Paul and his story. So Paul, do you mind telling everyone a little bit about yourself and why you decided to move out to sunny California?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for that. That's a very nice intro. My story is like, I live in San Diego now, and mainly for the weather. Especially like you guys in Britain, you've had a really hard winter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just wet, basically. That's all I've seen.
Yeah, it rains non-stop.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean it's really nice out here, and that's what you can do as sort of an online entrepreneur, where basically you run your business from your laptop, which is what I do now, and it opens up a lot of possibilities to where you can work and where you can live in the world. And, I came out here last August, actually, and really just, let's say a year and a half ago, we were just thinking like, where should we move to next? And, and I got a family, and when you start looking around the world and sort of deciding where to move to, the world actually becomes a lot smaller than you might think. If you want to include a beach, which is where we live now, we sort of overlook the sea. If you want to include the beach, the sun, and everything else, but you also need infrastructure, like schooling and medical and all that sort of stuff. The world does get a little bit smaller, when you start thinking about kids and things. We settled on San Diego, or just north of San Diego. It's a great move. It's beautiful here. Really, really nice place to live.
I mean, I would say that your story is pretty fascinating. Essentially, you're a self-made man running his own successful business. So it must have been a roller coaster of a journey to get where you are today. I mean, did you plan all of this from the get-go?
Do you know what? It's a funny thing. It's I do a lot of kind of visualization, and I don't mean that in a woo-woo way. I just mean I look back into my corporate days. And, basically I was a CTO for like 3 different startups. And at the end of the day, even though I was like the guy whose job was to like industrialize software and get it to a stage where the company could sell. And, and I did that several times, and the software's still out there and stuff, but I was still an employee, and I wasn't doing it for myself. So I wasn't really getting all the benefits. And, working for startups, if you're working as an employee for a startup, it's really hard work. It's really hard work. It's long hours. It's your involvement is very different from just, a normal sort of employee type role. And, and I remember so many times sitting on the bus, on the way to work, looking out the window thinking, this is great. I'm lucky, I'm paid well and it's a good job, but it's not for myself, and I don't have the freedom to do what I want to do. That kind of really stuck with me. And every day I was just like visualizing, well, look, when am I going to, get out of here? How can I do it? And I really sort of visualized this life on the beach. I know it sounds crazy, but, I really did have in my mind this picture of me sitting there with the family by the beach, and I kept sort of had that there, and I thought one day this will happen. And what actually happened, is the last company, we managed to sell it. We were there a long time, but we did sell it in the end, and it sort of opened a door where I could leave, and start up on my own. And obviously I knew about software, but the golden rule about software is you've got to have a market. You've got to know what people want to pay for. And that's what has to come first. And so I really started learning about online marketing, internet marketing, how to sell online and stuff. And I really got involved in the communities of people who were looking to build websites and get traffic and all that sort of stuff. And I was trying to find out, so what are they struggling with, you know? Mm-hmm. And, you know, the key thing that a lot of people were struggling with is, you know, getting free traffic, you know, from Google and Facebook and things like that. And so I set about, you know, building some software tools to help people do that. So I built like a keyword tool to help people identify what keywords to rank for. And, you know, I started building what's called content marketing tool. And, you know, the first version of this was called Page One Curator, and it was all about curation. This was in the day when curation was a really big thing, and it still is a big thing to a certain extent. And, you know, what I really don't like and don't believe in is creating content, you know, just to get traffic, just to get, you know, the search engines to love your site. Because, you know, there's so much content being produced nowadays that, you know, you kind of want to think, if you're going to produce content, you kind of want people to read it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like really against all this automated content generation stuff and the spinning and all this stuff. I thought there's got to be a better way. And you know, everyone knows, well, you could just write a good article, okay, and write a really, really good article, which is true. You can. And I do that, but it takes time. It takes a lot of time doing that. So I was thinking, like, how can you produce really good content, get people to follow you, build an audience, okay, but without having to write everything from scratch? And so that's what kind of curation is all about. You know, curation is like finding the best content, researching the best content, and then putting your flavor, your spin, your input onto that content. And, you know, because you're coming up with these ideas that other people have produced and you're curating and pulling them all together into your post, then that's what makes it interesting for the user, or for the reader, I should say. You know, and that's what people would then start following you, because they start to see you as an authority, you know, in that market. Even though you're not necessarily writing everything as your own, you're still collecting the best content that's relevant to that audience. All right. And that's how you build a following, because people start following you and you think, hey, this guy always gives me the best content.
Yeah. You
know, he always finds the best articles. He always finds, you know, the right stuff. So I'm just going to stay on his list or follow his blog. And that's like the heart of authority blogs. And, you know, and that is what Google is all about nowadays. You know, they don't rank pages now. They really sort of rank your blogs, you know, for authority. And so I grew Page One Curator, and then created like a big boy, or like a curation on steroids product called Kudani. And Kudani is all about content marketing, and it's engineered for bloggers, for people who want to create really good content for their website. And, you know, it doesn't have any spinning or anything like that. There's nothing grey hat or anything about it. It just speeds up the process of you creating really good stuff for your sites. You know, and just pulls everything together, and you can do it all, you know, from your desktop. And, you know, you can create like a week's worth or a month's worth of articles, you know, in one sitting. But at least those articles are good quality. You know, it's putting your best stuff out there. And, you know, if you put your best stuff out there, then people are going to follow you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like basically you're just educating people. I mean, that's what people would return for, to see you as an authority figure, so then they can educate themselves from the content that you put out.
Yeah, I mean, it's content marketing is like the cornerstone of any business now. You know, if you're not doing it, then you're losing out, because, you know, if you look at some of the big players, let's take in the SaaS, software as a service market. One of the really successful companies there is Kissmetrics. And, you know, one of the guys behind that is Neil Patel. And I think you've interviewed him recently, but I did too. And everything he does is content marketing. All he's doing is he's educating his market. You know, he's educating them on, you know, why they need the software, how to create traffic. You know, and of course people follow him because of that. And of course, when the more you follow someone, and eventually you get really interested in what they're talking about, and then obviously, then they say, "Well, what's your product about?" Okay, and that's how you get customers that come to you to buy, rather than you really have to ram it down their throat.
Yeah, I mean, I would. This actually ties in perfectly with my next question. I mean, Disruptware is only a few months old, having launched at the beginning of this year, so it's still early days. And I was going to ask you, how do you plan on growing your business? But I think you already answered that with content marketing.
Yeah. So, Disruptware, just for the benefit of your listeners, is well, let me just backtrack a bit and where that came from. So, so I've created a lot of software in my career, both for other people and for myself. So I've done, a lot of SaaS software as a service for the enterprise space, and and a lot of desktop products as well. And the more I was successful with all that, the more I get people coming to me saying, I want to do that too. How do I do it? How do I get started? And I saw a lot of people launching products that might, do really, really well on day one, and then they just die and disappear. Yeah. And I also saw a lot of products that were just absolute rubbish. I saw a lot of people who couldn't find the right developer, people getting, making just mistakes that to me, look really straightforward, okay, or really easy things to solve. And so this really ignited a passion within me that I really just wanted to help other people build software, build like really awesome companies. And if I can get, lots of software entrepreneurs together, and help them, in a community to build the right software, software that has recurring income, that really does grow, something that you can really believe in, invest in, and eventually sell. Okay, because technology is never a lifestyle business, but at least it's something you can grow, over a year, 2 years, and then sell. Then I thought that would be amazing if I can get a lot of people doing that, and help other people become software entrepreneurs, or help software entrepreneurs grow their business, get traffic, build it properly. Then that would be fantastic. And that's kind of like my reason for creating Disruptware. And Disruptware is essentially a community for software entrepreneurs. And, I launched the site just in January. And, it's the community is going to be opening probably next week. And at the moment, I'm just creating content. I'm creating videos, I'm doing podcasts, I'm writing articles, and I'm just educating my market, and as much as I can on, how to find the right developers, how to design, how to wireframe, how to come up with that idea, because it doesn't have to be unique, all those sorts of things. And I'm just driving that out to my market, and people are finding me and coming on my list, and hopefully they'll join us in the community.
Well, you've actually, because you previously mentioned you worked with enterprises like for past few decades, but most recently you started working with startups. How do you think the industry has changed over the past 10 years?
In software?
Yeah.
It massively. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I look back and, when I started at the last startup, which I guess must have been like 15 years ago, the last one we sold, when I joined that, we had like a team of like 40 people, 40 developers. And we then set up an offshoring center in Poland, and we had, that's still like huge in terms of the number of people there. But to get stuff done, to get the application built, it just took an age, and the more people you have, then the slower things take to get done. So I really do advocate, getting small teams, small groups together, and you accelerate and you move a lot faster. But the biggest change, over the last few years has been lean startup. And what people have come to realize is that, if you try and build something, and it doesn't even have to be software, it can be, a mock-up, a working mock-up, or a wireframe. Try and build something and show that to customers or your prospects before you spend all the money, building it out. And if you show that and even get them, some customers will even start buying it. Okay, they'll even buy a mock-up because, if they see that your solution will really solve the pain, then they're going to commit money to that. And that's the trigger for you to go, right, this business is going to be huge. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with the economy, with the global economy, with freelancing, the freelancer.com, the Odesks and all this sort of stuff, you can get software built faster, easier and cheaper than ever before. And that's how radical everything has changed over the last few years.
Yeah. I completely agree with you about startups. You can get startups get more done because they're not tied down to as much bureaucracy. So yeah, what other things do you think has changed over the last 10 years?
So, the concept lean startup is what's really engineered things moving really, really quickly. I think a lot of people realize that, SaaS is, a great business model, okay? Because, you build in the recurring nature. You have to build in some hooks into the software to make sure people do come back and people fall in love with it. Lately people are really starting to understand that, the user experience is core. And the software doesn't have to be massively complicated, but you have to make it so cool to use that your customers become emotionally connected to it.
Yeah.
And that, if you're building sort of a mass market product, that's what makes the difference. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because it's faster, easier and cheaper to build software nowadays than ever before, there's also a lot more of it. There's a lot more startups. And the world is becoming much more competitive. And, even, in San Diego, for example, the startup community is exploding here. Santa Monica, it's exploding. Obviously, in the Valley, it's huge. But it's becoming more spread out. But a lot more startups are coming up. And what's happening is people are understanding that that simplicity is key. And even some of the startups are really, really simple in concept. And even some of the really, really successful ones, if you look at Buffer, Buffer's an amazing company. They've done really, really well, huge growth. Mm-hmm. But in essence, it's social sharing. And social sharing has been around a long time. Okay, so they haven't come to the market with something radically brand new. They've come and made something that people are already doing really, really easy for them to do. Okay, and they've made and they've understood that, people want to share content, and they want it posted out at times where their customers are most likely to respond to it. Mm-hmm. And they've just identified those things, built something that's really cool to use. So they're really focused on, the UX, and the user experience. And because of that, they've built this really, really loyal following.
Yeah. So it's a very simple. It's a very simple service that they've actually built, and the important thing with Buffer actually is they've built a story, and now that actually moves on to my next question on link building. Link building it's an important part when it comes to building a website or brand, but recently we've seen a shift with how search engines pull content. Instead, they're now favouring original and educational content, like you just mentioned, which is commonly referred to as content marketing. So do you have any tips for people building a content marketing strategy?
I think, remember that link building, right, has always been the wrong method. Yeah, just that phrase alone is wrong. Okay, and although, we used to call it that, and we're all guilty of that, if you look at Google's, their principle, they've always said no. Yes, they rank according to links, but they use links as the votes. So it was never about link building, even though everyone called it link building. It's about link acquisition. And the way you get link acquisition is by creating really good stuff. Okay. But there's a but, right? If you just create really, really good content, people just aren't going to find you. You do have to do outreach. And so you do have to, contact other blogs, write for other blogs, and build like a network of people who like your stuff and you like their stuff. And that's how you really, really start to grow. Okay. But coming back to the essence of content marketing, it's about educating your market on the business, okay, that you're providing a solution to. All right. So, let's use Kissmetrics as another example, as we talked about it earlier. Kissmetrics is an analytics tool. Okay. It's like everyone thinks of Google Analytics. Google Analytics looks at what's happening on your site. Kissmetrics looks at who's doing what on your site. Okay, so it's a lot deeper, and it's all about the individual. And so you can track things like lifetime customer value and all that sort of stuff, which really, really matters for the SaaS companies. And so what Kissmetrics do in terms of their content marketing strategy is, they push out content on how to build really good SaaS apps, how to acquire customers, how to, develop software that has a hook. Okay, so in other words, why do people come back to your software? Why do they fall in love with your software? So what they're doing is they're educating their market on everything, okay, to do with building like really good SaaS apps. And of course, their market then is going to go, right, brilliant. Now I need an analytics tool. And Kissmetrics is the obvious solution. So
yeah, and they're right. They're right there, like saying, "Hi, we can do that for you."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess the general advice to people is, first of all, make sure whatever content you put out there is good stuff. Okay, don't just push out stuff that you feel bad about. Okay, and you know in your gut when something's good or not. Mm-hmm. A quicker way of doing that and still producing really good stuff is curation. Okay, so you can become the authority figure. You can create other articles. So you can pull in other articles and comment around them. Okay, but make sure everything's relevant to your specific audience. And keep doing it and continually create good content. And that doesn't have to be just written articles. It can be videos. It can be podcasts. All those other things. Those other ways of creating content are all valid. Mm-hmm. And and do that regularly to your site. Okay, so whatever schedule you can manage, because a lot of people might be in a full-time job and doing this in their spare time, so don't overcommit yourself to once a day. If it's once a week, that's fine, but just keep doing it consistently. And that's how people will look out for your next post. Okay, and then obviously with any site, you've got to have a goal. Okay, so no matter what, you've got to have some sort of monetization there. So first of all, what you should be doing is having some lead generation. So you should have like an opt-in form or something, so that when people go to your blog, they have something to do. So you need a call to action to get them to opt in or sign up or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you need to capture that lead. Okay, that's really, really important. And then from the leads, then you can start selling them whatever it is you're offering, whether it's your service or your software or some other product. But that's like the core that you must get right.
Mm-hmm. I'm moving on to my next question. Businesses are always looking for ways to drive traffic to the site, but nowadays finding the most relevant content online can be like walking through heavy fog, because there's just so much out there. So do you have any definitive tips that the listeners should know when it comes to building brand awareness and actually telling a story?
So I think your question is about how do you find the really good content?
Yeah.
So so for example, the way we deal with it in Kudani is that we have like an inbuilt feed reader. And that feed reader has a little plugin that integrates into your browser. So let's say you're using Chrome, and whenever you're wandering around the web looking at different blogs and things, and you see a blog that's relevant to you and you want to curate from that, then you click the little K symbol that appears in the toolbar of your browser, and it kind of like bookmarks, that blog. It bookmarks the feed for that blog in Kudani. So then when you come back to Kudani and you fire it up and you want to create some content, then those feeds that you kind of bookmark all get sucked into your feed reader automatically. Mm-hmm. And so that's how you start then building your core list of really good blogs to follow. Okay, and of course when they're producing really, really good content, then they help you produce really, really good content, and then you can push that out to your site. And Kudani does other things like helps you create infographics. We talked about link building, and this is all about link acquisition. Infographics is a good way to do that. People love infographics, and they share them, and you can embed them on your site so that people will share them with an embed code, so that it actually generates links as well. Mm-hmm. Taking infographics further, there's something called gifographics, which are like animated infographics, and they're becoming really, really popular as well. Oh. Yeah, so you should look out for those. But in essence, just like curate really, really good stuff, publish really, really good stuff, and then start doing some outreach. Okay, so maybe the blogs that you've been following that are really, really good, why don't you start contacting them, and saying, hey, I'd like to write an article on this, whatever your topic is, for your blog. Mm-hmm. And then you can create an article for them. I mean, people call it guest blogging or guest posting, and that would generate you traffic from their site. Okay, and that all combined, that's how you're going to accelerate your traffic generation from Google and free traffic.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean it's essentially what we're doing right now.
Exactly. I mean, you're doing a podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And you're getting people on the podcast. So I'll share this with my audience. You'll share this with your audience, mm-hmm. and and together we help build each other's authority and following. So I mean it really does work.
I mean to finally wrap things up. Can you tell everyone about some of your upcoming projects or things that you're excited about to see in 2014?
So for me, my focus is twofold right now. So Disruptware, we'll be launching next week. Okay, and that'll be a community, and there'll be some masterminding as well. But that's for people who want to get started in software, or people who already have some software and want to scale it. So that's what that's all about, and it's a forum-based community, mm-hmm. Where we help each other with sort of my guiding hand to accelerate, and so that I can achieve my goal of having lots and lots of successful software entrepreneurs, in my community. And maybe at the end of the year we'll probably have like an event and everything driven around Disruptware.
Yeah. Have you got a date when it will be launching?
Yeah, it's next week, so next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Okay, that's good.
So so that's Disruptware, and then Kudani, is growing nicely. So there's and Kudani has a desktop app for bloggers and people wanting to work from the desktop. But there'll also be a SaaS version of that, launching later in the year as well. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this talk's been quite good, and I think that's all we have time for. So thanks for taking the time to talk to me, Paul, as it's been a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
And just a quick side note to all our listeners, we'll be attending the Next Web Europe in Amsterdam on the 24th and 25th April as part of the Boost Startup programme. So come along and say hi to both James and Mike. You'll get a chance to demo our product, get some discounts, and grab some free stickers. See you there.